Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to be talking about collaborations and partnerships and how they can help your business. Balancing building a successful business and being a superstar mom is hard, and yet in today's digital world, it's more common than ever.
The question becomes, how do we successfully grow a business and children at the same time?
Join us for a candid conversation as we share our insights into marketing and motherhood. I'm Angela Reeder.
And I'm Jessie Valle. Welcome to the Marketing Moms Podcast.
So collaborating with other businesses and partnering up with other businesses or service providers can be a really, really great way to help bring in some extra, I'm not going to call it passive income because I really don't like that, but just some extra income that's from outside of your typical audience that can make a big impact without a huge amount of effort or a big change in your business on your part.
Yeah. As we talk about stepping into this new phase of our business, I feel like this is another opportunity for us to use the reputation that we've built for ourselves to an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also the connections that we've made along the way, friendships. Like, I'm not saying make friends just to partner up with them later, but the authentic connections you've already made. And we've talked a little bit about what that can look like.
Yeah. But this episode is definitely going to be more about diving into those different ways and kind of diving a little deeper to where we had just touched the surface before.
Right. So one of the ways that you can do this is through joint ventures. If you have an interest and another business or somebody that you know also has the same interest, you can collaborate, work together to create a new product or something like that, or on a project to bring a little bit more exposure to both of your businesses.
Yeah, I've seen this played out in several ways. Sometimes it's a matter of someone with the bigger audience approving the work of someone with the smaller audience. And so the smaller audience is the person to actually fulfill on the product, but the person with the bigger audience is the one that brings it in, the audience in. And so they work together by saying, okay, I'll bring my audience and endorse you for your quality product that I will allow you to fulfill for them. So it's kind of a win-win in that situation.
I've also seen, especially with content creators and coaches, I've seen them work together to create like one course that they both market.
Yeah, for sure. Just bringing in both their expertises.
Yeah, bringing, 2, 3, 4 different people working together to create one course that's a very well-rounded thing that's bigger than what they would be able to offer their audience on their own, but also isn't something that where they have to go and learn the other expertise.
And I've also seen joint ventures or JVs are kind of like affiliates, in where you can just tell your audience, hey, go buy this other product. But taking it a step further is partnering with that other company to where you have your own branded landing page.
Yeah.
Right. So if you go to the other person's website, it's not just, here's my product. It's, hey, in partnership with Jessie and Angela, just for Jessie and Angela's audience, just for the Marketing Moms audience, we have a special offer for you. And so it's a lot of times I also feel like this is a lot of podcasters do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like go to xyz.com/marketingmoms to get your 15% off coupon or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like, so let's take Amazon, for example. Amazon doesn't let you become a JV unless you can prove you have the audience to make the purchases.
Yeah.
And I feel like at this point in our business, as we're heading into the next phase, we have a large enough audience to make those purchases. I'm going to be honest, Angela and I have tried several times to get
Yeah.
Amazon going, but we just didn't at the time have a large enough audience to be accepted. And
Right.
soon we didn't meet the requirements and we were ultimately let go by Amazon.
Right.
So it's times like that where now that we're entering the next phase in our business, we can actually utilize
Right. You can get those
customer
resources that you
base.
couldn't when you were in the startup. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is, these collaborations and partnerships are just another way to utilize the fruits of your labor from the first phase in your business.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. So another way that you can collaborate and partner with people is just to promote each other's things. There is a Shopify SEO expert, and one of the things that she does, she reaches out to other different Shopify experts, and she has just a page on her website that's like, if you need any of these things, here's who you should go to. And I've seen a lot of that I've seen that on a lot more websites. Like, people used to have the resources tab where it was like all the different tools that you could use, and it was all affiliate links and things like that. And they still do, but I'm starting to see more and more where people are promoting other people and not just other products. So it's, if you need a copywriter, this is the person you go to. If you need an ads person, go to this person. And everybody kind of has everybody else on their page, and everybody's kind of cross promoting each other. It's like the old blog circles where everybody would link to the other blog posts for the week. It's kind of like that, but for service providers or for product placement, things like that.
I feel
and that can be really, really good.
Yeah, the benefit of that is, let's say you had me on your website, then when someone needed that kind of service, I remember you. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you should go to Angela. So it's, even though I'm not getting a cut of that business, it's my way of saying thanks for putting me on your website.
Yes, exactly. And I have done that, seen that on other people's things, and it's very nice because it doesn't take a lot of effort. Like, to say, if you're on a podcast, say, hey, if you need a copywriter, go to this person. If you need a tech person, go to Jesse. If you need whatever. And also just putting those on your website, it's not time or labor intensive to like cross promote things for each other.
Yeah, and I've seen people on like Instagram and stuff like that say, listen, I am not an affiliate in any way with this product.
Yes.
I just absolutely love it, and
I just
need
really
to share
like
it
this
with you
product.
guys. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing wrong with pumping other people up.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think as we move into this new phase of our business, when you're in the startup phase, it's okay to feel a little selfish. I don't want to tell people to go to somebody else's website. I want them to stay here. Like, I don't care that I'm not a copywriter. I don't want them to leave my website. Like, it's okay to feel a little selfish when you're in that startup phase and not want to bring people's attention to other people. But once you're established, you've got a base layer of income coming in. You're not in that hustle grind, grab every dollar you can get phase. It's a really good time to start pumping other people up, promoting other people, working with other people. And, it's the rising tide raises all ships thing. Once you have the ability to help other people, it will ultimately help you as well.
Yeah. Another thing that you can do is do some guest blogging. Now, this is a very old school tactic, in my opinion.
That is old school.
But it's effective. There's a reason it's been around for as long as it has. It's about going to someone else's website and writing on a topic you are an expert in, even if you don't necessarily link back to your website,
Right.
although most allow you to link at least once.
Yeah.
It's a great way to have something more evergreen. So if someone mentions you on social media, chances are it's probably going to be gone in a day, depending on where
day
they promote
or
you.
a couple hours.
Right. But guest blogging, on the other hand, that's like you going to that copywriter's blog and talking about your expertise, even though when it's not copywriting, but it's kind of related to how they would use the copy.
Yeah.
And helps the people reading that blog be like, huh, you know what? You're right. After I work with this person on copy, then I need to go find, I don't know, you
to
do the part.
Yes. And there are, almost everybody that has a website has a blog, like especially even service providers, product businesses I've seen with blogs. Almost everybody has a blog. There are not as many people in any industry that have effective blogs with lots of people that read them. Most people use blogs for SEO and nothing more. Like they're just kind of there. They may get promoted a little bit, but they're not a big thing. I can think of 2 or 3 people who their blog is big enough that people seek them out like regularly. Their blog is a big part of their marketing. And if you can find someone like that either is willing to guest post on your blog, even if it's not like huge, or will let you guest post on their blog, that can be a huge, huge, huge benefit to your business.
Yeah. And I'd like to point out that blogging in this sense is just the vehicle. Let's replace it with guest podcasting.
Right.
Or, guest YouTubing.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't, those are the big 3 things. There's the writing, which is blogging, speaking, which is podcast, and then, video is also speaking, but it's definitely a different beast.
It's a different beast. Yeah. Or that could be, maybe you're not doing a big joint venture for something, but someone comes to you and says, would you be willing to make like one 10-minute lesson that I could put in my course? And you can link to your blog and I will make sure to recommend you and, whatever. Maybe you get a cut, maybe not. That can be a good way too. That's kind of the same thing of guest blogging. You get a smaller audience, but they're an audience that's much more likely to seek you out for your expertise.
Yeah, I've seen that before where in courses, people have a whole section with interviews with the experts.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's when the person who created the course has these interviews with a whole bunch of different experts. If you can be one of those experts, that puts your name in front of an audience that you didn't have access to before.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, it's an audience that's much more likely to seek you out and spend money because they have probably already spent money on a course. And if they've gotten far enough into it that they're like watching these videos and taking action, then they're much more likely to seek you out as well.
And let's be honest, if they've done some of that, they kind of feel like they have some sort of relationship with you already, even though they've never met you. It's like all of you listening to this right now. You've never met me and Angela, probably. Some of you have, but most of you haven't. And you probably feel like you have some sort of relationship with us, to that if you met us on the street, you'd know us.
Hi. Yeah.
You'd say hi.
You would say, hi, oh my gosh, I listened to your podcast. I love it. And we would be like, oh my gosh, you really listen to our podcast? Like, for real?
So if you are an expert in some capacity on somebody else's blog, podcast, YouTube channel, course, anything, then you've unknowingly built a relationship with that audience that they may, even if it's just one person that comes to you, that's more than you had before.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So rolling from that into the next one, which is co-hosting events or webinars.
Mm.
This is another one that it's old school.
Mm-hmm.
It's like blogging. There are not as many, especially live events and webinars now. A lot of them are recorded. They're not called webinars anymore. They're called like master classes and workshops and things like that. So this one is also a little bit more old school, but can be really beneficial if you can partner up with somebody to share your expertise, to have access to someone else's audience, and also doing these things together, webinars, events, things like that, is a little bit less scary. It is less scary to get on the podcast and talk with Jesse for half an hour than it would be for me to sit down and talk about something for half an hour all by myself. And it's more entertaining as well.
I'd also like to say that you don't necessarily have to co-host. Like,
no,
it
you don't
could
necessarily
simply
have to
be
co-host.
it could simply be just being invited and attending those events.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
sure.
I've seen summits are becoming really, like video summits are becoming really popular.
Yeah. And the great thing about those is a lot of them are recorded, like pre-recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's less pressure because you're not in front of an audience, but there are people who thrive in front of an audience. I actually enjoy being in front of a live audience because I can feed off their energy. I can answer questions live. Angela's like, heck no. She is like shaking her head. There's a reason. So we, record our podcast, just the two of us, because that is not her cup of tea and I want her around. But, live events still are a thing.
Yes. They are still a thing. Just you're very rarely going to hear them called webinars anymore. Like I said, it's going to be summits, workshops, master classes, things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're basically all the same thing.
Yeah. So it's just about coming together. And that's the other thing, is it doesn't have to necessarily be, when we're talking about these collaborations and partnerships, it doesn't just have to be two businesses. It can be many businesses. So that's why there are certain, look at like Comic-Con.
Oh,
it is so
many businesses,
because so many businesses and people come together, not just because they're going to meet their one hero, but because they get to see the whole panel of people speak on their favorite show or something, and not just that, it's many of them, and just having that big overwhelming benefit just by being together, that will draw people in.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So we talked a little bit about this earlier in the book and also in here, about referrals and referring clients to each other. And, okay, I can't do this, but this person can do this. And this is a little bit more formal. So when we talked earlier about it, it was a little bit less formal of like, oh, I know this person, you should go to them. But you can also have a little bit of a more formal relationship where you have just kind of agreed or have some sort of arrangement with other product or service providers to recommend, like, if I have to recommend someone, it's going to be you. Like, and vice versa.
Yeah. Was it last week or the week before we talked about the example of like a plumber and an electrician, right?
Yeah,
like,
I think that was last week.
they don't do what each other do, but they're both needed in a house. And so if they can refer those partnerships of like, hey, I do, electrical, but my friend Angela does plumbing.
Right.
We need to, and I trust her. You trust me, I trust her. So therefore you should trust her.
Yes.
And then vice versa. Angela has someone and like, hey, I know this electrician, Jesse. You should definitely go to her. And people like to trust people. right?
Yeah. And people
So
take the path of least resistance.
that's true. And so for you to say, hey, Angela's good, she'll give you a good price, you should go to her, they may not even look around. They'll just take your word for it. So
Yeah.
that's another reason why when you're doing these things, you really need to do them thoughtfully and know that your reputation's on the line too. Because if Angela does something to really upset that person, that's going to come back on you.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Absolutely.
Jessie told me
Yeah.
about Angela and she was no good.
And they did this. Yeah.
Or the opposite. Jessie told me about Angela and she's amazing and now I have to tell everybody about Angela.
Yeah.
So make sure that if you enter into a referral partnership that you do it with someone that you actually like and trust.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily even have to be a back and forth. It can also be a, hey, if you bring me this person, I'll give you 5% of the contract or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be even more incentive.
Yep, exactly. So kind of going along with that idea is this product or service bundling. So like Jessie used the example of the plumber and the electrician. So sometimes people are going to need one or the other. I'm going to need an outlet rewired or I'm going to need a leaky faucet fixed.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes people need both. I'm building a house, I'm repairing a house, I'm remodeling a house. I need a plumber and an electrician. And so bundling those services together and saying, hey, you can call this one place, go to this one website, text this one number, and you get everything you need right there. People will take the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get an all-in-one, they will. People love all-in-ones. That's why people love buy one, get one free things. You know what I mean? It's people love feeling like they're getting a deal and also feeling like they're getting something for less effort than it should have taken.
Right. Like, yeah, you're building the house, you need an electrician, you go there and they're like, hey, it costs, let's say $100. And then you're like, but if you hire Angela for the project as well, she's my great, partner plumber, then we're going to reduce your bill.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get both of us.
Yeah. Which you already need.
Which you already need for like $150. Whereas if you got us separately, it would be $200 or something ridiculous like that, because everyone knows you're not going to spend that little for plumbers and electricians, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of paying for it separately, if you combine them, you get a discount.
Yeah. And
so
you
again,
can also
partner with people you trust.
Yeah. You can also each offer that on your site. So like if I'm a website designer, I can partner with a copywriter and bundle a service together that includes their copywriting service and offer that on my site. This is my service, and as a part of this service, you get this person's service. And you don't have to find them. You don't have to, I will tell you everything you need to give them and they will handle it and it will be fine. And they can do the same thing. I offer copywriting. If you are looking for a website, I have this service where I can get you a website built and I will write the copy.
I mean, to be honest, as things have expanded, I mean, if you think back to pre-internet, it was like, oh, there's only a few people in the area that can do this. Yeah. It doesn't take that long to vet them or hear the hearsay. But now, especially in this digital age, when you could work with anybody all over the world, you could not possibly vet every single person out there. So to have someone that you already trust say, you know what, I've vetted people and she's the best.
Yeah.
That's why I partner with her. Like Angela said, people take the path of least resistance, and that would be it. You've already vetted them. They trust you. So use that trust and that relationship you've built to partner with someone else. Win-win.
Yeah. I am actually thinking right now of a very popular website that used to do exactly that for local service providers, people that mowed lawns, plumbers, electricians. You could go to this one website and they would be all vetted. They would tell you if they were licensed and bonded. You could look at reviews. It's not as good as it was when it started because things like that never are, but it was it was at one time. Yeah, now you can buy the ratings, but at one time it was a really good and a lot of people went to it because they didn't have the time to go vetting every single electrician in their area.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of using something here in the digital age, there's also this thing called a social media takeover. And I'm starting to see more and more of those. Why do you love them?
Well, first of all, because it does give you access to a new audience, or it gives your audience something new to watch or listen to or consume. But I also really like this because what I am seeing a lot of creators do is when they have to be away, if they're on vacation or maternity leave, or there's been an emergency and they have to be away from their content for a while, they will have someone come in and do a social media takeover. So their content is still getting pushed out. There's still that constant content creation. The algorithm's still picking them up. Their audience is still keeping them top of mind, but they are able to step away and handle what needs to be handled. And I love that as a concept, because especially at this point in our businesses, we are thinking more about going on vacation, taking some time off, things like that, or stuff just does come up sometimes where there's an emergency and you have to be away for a week and you can ask someone, hey, come take over my social media. And I love seeing it used for that, to allow creators, businesses, service providers to step back when they need to without losing that momentum that you get from the consistent content creation.
Yeah. This is scary to me because I have a hard time trusting people at that level. And social media is very personal for a lot of people. And so for you to release your social media to someone else can be very scary. So think about if they release it to you, how scared they are and how you want to do a good job for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say, as far as tips for taking over other people's social media, one thing that I would recommend is do some partnership social media posts. I've seen that a lot. They're either, if you're local and you can like be on the same thing together, do that. If you're not, there's, Zoom or whatever to make social media, or you can like duet stitch on TikTok, things like that. So that your audience kind of gets used to seeing the two of you together. And it's not just, who's this weird person that's suddenly on my favorite creators TikTok or Instagram. So you definitely want to like build up that so that people are aware of that relationship and know that like you trust this person. They're used to seeing that sort of content, things like that. So it's not really like a jump in with both feet all of a sudden thing. You should definitely kind of warm up, but it can be a lead up or sort of like a culmination of some of these other things that we talked about, like the joint ventures and cross posting and things like that.
Yeah. It reminds me of recently I saw two of my favorite dad influencers combine into, because like they both are really good at doing these funny dad skits. And then they actually combined and did one together. So then I could see them both playing off each other. And so even though they both have very similar audiences, they were able to grow their audience by sharing, right? And I just thought it was so great. There was no way I was not going to watch that video.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. You know what? I will tell you, there's an example on TikTok, and I won't give creators names, but they have totally separate, different audiences. They have different styles. They promote different content. They have totally different things, but they look a lot alike, to the point where people get them confused all of the time, and they'll get comments on each other's posts like, why are you doing this kind of content or whatever, like because they think they're on the other person's. And I've seen they did a couple together, and then they actually did a swap where they took over each other's social media for a while. like just for like 2 or 3 days. It was hilarious. Everybody loved it. People that maybe for some reason didn't know about the other person got to see some of their content. And because there wasn't that overlap, like nobody was like stepping on each other's toes. Like one person does like safety tips for the home and one person does like recipes or something. Like it's completely different, but fun, and still something that each other's audience would enjoy, and just kind of a playful thing that everybody got a kick out of. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like, and I've seen like what you're talking about, and I love that. It makes me happy every time I see collaborations like that, or like content creators on TikTok that have like ongoing skits or recurring characters that will like cross over into other people's content. That is really fun as well. Just make sure you get permission before you start pulling other people's content for stuff like that.
But I think what
it can be really beneficial for both people.
Yeah, and that it can work both ways. That you guys are both in similar audiences, and if you have completely separate audiences.
Yeah.
Like there are ways to find connections with others, but social media takeovers are just, again, ways to maybe do something a little different and expand your audience. Now that you have already grown an audience and you're in that next phase of your business, again, utilizing your experience to do things that you couldn't necessarily do when you were a newbie.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's kind of the biggest part of things like collaborations and partnerships, where it's scary because it's new and it's different, but it's something that you can be excited about because it means you've reached a certain point in your business. Like not a lot of newbies with small audiences get the chance to collaborate, partner, take over other people's social media. That's sort of it's almost like a status. Like you've reached a point. Congratulations. Be excited and try something new.
I love it. So if any of you would love to collaborate with us, we are here for it.
We would love that.
We would love to collaborate with you. Just reach out to us on Instagram. We're at Marketing Moms Podcast, or you can always email us at contact@marketingmoms.co. So that about wraps that up. Collaboration and partnership can be a lot of fun, and it also helps you feel like you're not alone in business and all the things. So reaching out to others and having a little fun can be beneficial for everyone. So I guess we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. We're so honored this is where you chose to spend your time.
If this episode helped you in some way, please share it with another mom who needs to hear it. We're in this together.
And if you're ready for next steps, free goodies, and more, head over to marketingmomspodcast.com.
We'll see you next week.